There's a rumor out there about Rolex waiting lists getting shorter in the future, and I'm here to explain everything I know about this rumor. I'll even tell you why it would be a bad idea for Rolex to fix this problem without having a solid strategy. But before I explain, please subscribe and help the channel grow. Let's get started. So what do I mean by getting shorter? I'm sure you've noticed that the demand for Rolex watches has gone through the roof in the last few years, but it seems like Rolex is struggling to keep up with all the requests. This has led to never-ending waiting lists, and all the die-hard Rolex fans out there are pretty frustrated, to say the least. So, here's what's likely to happen down the line. Rolex will probably start making more watches to meet the demand, which means the authorized dealers might finally have more of those coveted watches in stock for their customers. You might have heard that they're supposedly aiming for 1 million watches in production, but there's no official confirmation from Rolex on that. They're really good at keeping their production numbers under wraps, just like their competitors do. They've set up a whole system where they make a lot of the watch components in-house, which gives them a lot of control over the production process. Some folks are speculating that the supply of materials might be causing some of these shortages, but Rolex hasn't come out and confirmed that yet. You've probably heard that a big part of Rolex's manufacturing is automated, but the watchmakers still put in a lot of careful work to put the pieces together. It's like a mix of high-quality craftsmanship and modern tech. This makes us think that Rolex could probably adjust its production quantities more easily compared to luxury brands that solely rely on traditional craftsmanship, like Patek Philippe. Even though it seems like Rolex could step up production, they've actually stated that they don't have any plans to do so. It's a bit surprising since they usually keep quiet about this stuff, but they did talk about the global Rolex shortage in a Yahoo Finance article. So how's Rolex going to shorten the lists? Rolex is really going all out to meet the crazy demand for their watches. I heard they're setting up 3 temporary production spots in Switzerland just to pump out more of those wrist beauties that collectors go crazy for. According to Bloomberg, they're going to start building these new sites in Freiburg soon, and we might start seeing the watches hit the market around 2025. But that's not all. Get this. Rolex is even planning to put up a massive $1.1 billion factory in Bula. Can you believe it? It's supposed to start cranking out watches by 2029. And you know, Rolex is already the big kahuna of watchmakers, headquartered in Geneva and everything. They've got a bunch of production spots around Switzerland, spots for making cases, dials, testing, and assembling stuff near Geneva, plus a site for making movements over in Bienne. That place is huge, almost 1 million square feet. Nobody really knows exactly how many watches Rolex makes since they keep that a secret. But some folks think it's around 1 million watches a year. And get this, their sales were almost $8 billion in 2021, according to Morgan Stanley. But here's the thing, you can't just waltz into a store and buy a new Rolex whenever you want. The demand is insane, so they're playing hard to get. But these new production spots they're setting up, one at the Vivier SA Industrial Park and another big one in Romont. Those are supposed to help sort things out. They're starting up in 2024 and 2025, respectively, and they're going to gradually hire and train folks to work there. They might end up giving jobs to like 250 to 300 people in total. It's kind of interesting, right? Like, why are they doing all of this now? I mean, there's been a watch shortage for a while, so why didn't they think of this earlier? Guess they're finally catching up with the times. So how's this really going to impact the waiting lists? So if we go with the idea that they really do make around 1 million watches every year, then it's quite possible that Rolex could end up producing 3 times more than their current output. This basically means that when the official sellers have serious customers in search of a specific watch, they won't have to wait as long to get their hands on that watch, since it'll be easier for the dealers to order packages with those exact models. What I'm getting at is that because they're increasing their production capabilities, it's pretty reasonable to think that the waiting times for certain Rolex models might actually get shorter. This could be great news for all those collectors and watch enthusiasts who've been patiently waiting on those lists for ages. They might finally have a shot at getting the watches they've been dreaming of without having to twiddle their thumbs for years on end. However, when Rolex significantly increases its production and floods the market with more watches, it could have several consequences on the perception of the brand. Firstly, it will diminish its exclusivity. One of the central concerns is that increased production could lead to the perception that Rolex watches are no longer as exclusive or rare as they once were. If more people have access to these watches, their status as a symbol of exclusivity and prestige might be diluted. Owning a Rolex would no longer be as unique, and the sense of being part of an elite group could erode. Secondly, the market will be saturated. A sudden influx of Rolex watches into the market could lead to oversaturation. This might result in a surplus of watches available for purchase, reducing the urgency and excitement that often accompanies acquiring a luxury item. Collectors and enthusiasts may find it less thrilling to obtain a Rolex when they are readily available. Thirdly, it will impact the secondary market. The secondary market for Rolex watches, which often thrives due to the scarcity of certain models, could be disrupted. Prices for certain Rolex watches on the secondary market are driven by demand surpassing supply. With an increase in production, the supply could catch up to or even surpass demand, leading to potentially lower prices in the secondary market. Lastly, it might mess with the brand's long-term image. Luxury brands rely heavily on their image and heritage. A significant shift in production strategies could impact the brand's historical narrative and the carefully cultivated perception of Rolex as a brand that maintains traditional values and craftsmanship. But hey, I'm pretty sure Rolex knows what it's doing. So what do you think will happen when waiting lists get shorter? Will Rolex be affected in any way? Share your thoughts in the comment section, and as always, don't forget to subscribe.